We can move over to France real quick. So this election did not go very well for Le Pen. Actually, she was looking pretty hot over the first round, making some real waves. And then, from my understanding, it's basically like the socialists teamed up with the capitalists, with
Right.
Macron, to
Right.
make sure that Le Pen didn't win. Do
Right.
you want
It's
to
really
dive into it for
bizarre.
me?
Yeah. Well, it is really bizarre. I mean, we talked about that. We said there's kind of a Le Pen derangement syndrome in France. So and it leads to these very strange political bedmates. You would think that like what Macron is all about is capitalism, right? But he it's doesn't seem to be where what they really are all about. That's okay. That's important to them, but it seems secondary. It's because they made a pact with the devil. Melenchon is the leader of the leftists. Is truly far left. I mean, I don't think it's even right to call Le Pen far right. Though she's just habitually, referred to as far right by the mainstream media. But to call him far left, I think is fair. It's not that he's just for, more government programs. He's really for, thoroughgoing socialism in France. He wants to create a socialist society, and is therefore very tightly allied with the communists in France. And this is the guy who now leads, he leads this new coalition, the Popular Front, that proved victorious. And it's all thanks to Macron, and his people who just would rather have socialists running the country, or, well, I guess they're maybe not exactly running the country, but give them the lion's share of the power than have Le Pen and restrictive immigration policies and a more moderate stance in relation to Russia.
You think that would be, other than maybe the Russia thing, that the Front National, Marine Le Pen's party, would be more aligned with Macron's party than Macron's party would be aligned with the socialists or the far left, right?
Well, it's kind of funny. It's actually Le Pen's party is, it's not socialist, but it's not really capitalist either. They're in favor of a great deal of government intervention and a certain amount of wealth redistribution, and that kind of thing. I mean, you could say there are maybe in some cases, there's more similarity between her, especially there are elements of the leftist coalition that, for example, including Melenchon himself, who is for achieving some sort of modus vivendi with Russia, and wants to stop the support for Project Ukraine. So there are people like that on the left who would agree with her on foreign policy, at least vis-a-vis Russia. And then there's a lot of them have Melenchon is much farther left, is much more of a socialist than Le Pen is. But some of the groups within his coalition probably have a very similar economic program to that of the National Rally, Le Pen's party. So it's actually not clear, but I think you're right, that it's certainly, you've actually seen, for example, the euro has dropped significantly since this leftist victory. It makes the finance people worried about, the fiscal soundness of France, because it's already, France, like the U.S., has incurred a great deal of debt. And, if the leftist takes charge, that's only going to get worse, right? And Le Pen is probably, has certainly not an advocate of austerity, but it's going to have a more moderate economic policy. But that doesn't seem to be what really matters. Again, it's just somehow stopping Le Pen, and maybe they really do believe she's a crypto fascist or something, and that this is going to be the road to Auschwitz. It's just that's the only way to get, because they had very, very strange bedfellows. I mean, basically, this is how they pulled off this victory, is that these two parties, the capitalists and the socialists, the far leftists, and Macron's people, the globalist capitalists, got together and just went from district to district and figured out, how they could combine their forces to defeat Le Pen in every district where it could be done, and they managed to pull it off. Again, she had the most votes overall, but she ended up being third place because she was against because the establishment banded together and coordinated their efforts, and the establishment, the left, and the Macron's people combined were a more powerful force than her party by itself.
Okay, so what does this mean for France, for Europe, NATO, Ukraine? What does this spell?
Well, it's hard to. I think you'd have to say that it means that France is just going to be less of a factor overall, because France is looking at a chaotic future right now. Nobody's really in charge. You have Macron as president, but if we follow president, then it should be Melenchon as prime minister, and that's going to be a really strange pair right there. The two of them are, they made this pact with each other, but they're just opposites in so many ways. And you just don't know how this country is actually going to hold together. In foreign policy, I would say that Macron has been weakened, because Melenchon, again, it does not support his Napoleonic foreign policy. And he's also very much opposed to the support for Israel, too. He said that he would, if he could, he would recognize Palestine as a state. Now, I don't know if he has the power to do that. Again, his party, though it has, came in first, does not have a majority. It's just a plurality. And Macron still has the presidency. So we're going to have a country that's just, kind of in the, maybe I shouldn't say civil war, but it's just going to be unable to present any sort of coherent policy vis-a-vis the rest of the world. It's just, we're looking at chaos in France. So I think that's probably going to be, at least weaken support overall for Project Ukraine, just because, we before we had Macron kind of leading the charge, right, for a more aggressive policy vis-a-vis Russia, and it's going to be harder for him to do that.
What do you say there's going to be chaos in France? Are you just talking about political chaos, or are you talking about on the streets chaos?
Well, it's definitely political chaos. There could be on the streets chaos. Knowing France, political chaos, politics get played out on the streets all the time. So, even with the victory here, when it looked like when actually in the first round, when Le Pen's party did so well, the National Rally, there were riots protesting it. Now, the far left one, there were riots celebrating the victory. So, who knows what's going to happen. The French.
Yeah, riots if you win, riots if you don't.
Right.
Okay, yeah, it seems like the whole West is falling into turmoil. We're just seeing it one after another. We're not looking too hot here in the United States.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, all these governments really very weak, and I think it's just true all around.
Except for Orban, I feel like, and maybe Meloni actually, a little bit in Italy.
That's right. The only thing, his weakness is that he's part of the European Union that is doing whatever it can to undermine him. But within his own country, he's very popular. It shows that a populist president, who really firmly pursues these populist policies is popular. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, it's just like I still can't get over how these politicians operate. If it was me, first of all, I'd like to think that I'd be rational and ethical enough to come to these conclusions on my own. But even if I was too stupid,
right?
Look over to the guy that's kicking butt in the polls. He's like, I'm going to do what that guy's doing. Yeah. Instead, they're like, no, I'm just going to double down on these bad policies and see if I can get down to single digits before my term ends.
Right. Well, I think a lot of these people are just, it's short term. They're just thinking, okay, we don't have a plan, but let's just keep things going to the next election. That's probably what the Biden administration is thinking, though they may not even do that.
I saw something that just today that Biden told Congress he's not stepping down. He's not in. So I think it's going to get messy here in the U.S. It's going to. They might try to force him out, and we'll see how that works, and if he goes willingly, and if not, there's going to be Hey, there'll be lots to talk about. We're in for a hot summer.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we can end it here unless there's anything else you want to add.
That's fine. Yeah. Now we covered a lot of topics here.
Yeah, that's where there's a lot to. We jumped around a lot today, which is fine. Okay, all right then. Well, have a good rest of your day, Dad.
Okay. You too.
All right, bye bye.